I was standing in my kitchen, staring at my phone, when my entire world shattered into 1,000 pieces. My college friend Jenny had just sent me screenshots of Facebook photos showing my husband Bradley on a pristine beach in Punta Cana, his arm wrapped around his secretary Courtney, both of them grinning like they were on their honeymoon. The timestamp read 2 days ago. The same 2 days Bradley told me he was solo camping in Rocky Mountain National Park to detox from work stress. In one close-up photo, I could see the diamond pendant necklace hanging around Courtney's neck, the one Bradley gave me for our 8th anniversary, the one I thought I had misplaced. My name is Ashley, and until that Wednesday afternoon, I thought I had a pretty good life. I was 32 years old, married to Bradley for 9 years, and we had a beautiful 7-year-old daughter named Emma, who was the light of my entire existence. I worked as a pediatric nurse at County General Hospital, pulling 3 12-hour shifts each week, which gave me flexibility to be present for Emma's school events and soccer games. Bradley was a regional sales manager for a pharmaceutical company, a job that required frequent travel but paid well enough for us to live comfortably in a 4-bedroom house in a quiet suburb just outside Denver, Colorado. From the outside, we looked like the perfect American family. We attended neighborhood barbecues on summer weekends, took Emma to her soccer games every Saturday morning, and spent family vacations exploring places like Yellowstone and the Grand Canyon. Our Christmas card photo always showed the 3 of us smiling, genuinely happy, or so I thought. But looking back now, I could see the cracks that had been forming for months, the signs I had ignored because I was too busy, too trusting, or maybe just too afraid to look closely. 6 months ago, Bradley hired a new secretary named Courtney. She was 24 years old, fresh out of college with a business degree, eager and enthusiastic about her first real job. I met her once at the company holiday party in December, a cheerful event at a hotel ballroom where spouses were invited to celebrate the year's successes. Courtney had seemed nice enough, though I noticed she laughed a little too loud at Bradley's jokes and touched his arm more often than seemed professionally appropriate. I pushed the observation aside, telling myself I was being paranoid and insecure. 3 months ago, around February, Bradley started working later. Instead of coming home at his usual 6 o'clock, he would walk through the door at 8 or 9, claiming he had back-to-back meetings or urgent reports to finish. I would keep dinner warm in the oven, and we would eat together while Emma was already upstairs doing homework or getting ready for bed. Our family dinners, once a sacred daily ritual, became rare occurrences. Around the same time, Bradley became obsessed with fitness. He started going to the gym 5 days a week, sometimes before work and sometimes after. He lost 15 pounds over 2 months, bought an entirely new wardrobe of slim, fit shirts and designer jeans, and started using cologne I had never smelled before. When I complimented his dedication to health, he said he was trying to reduce stress and feel better about himself. I supported him, even though it meant less time together as a couple. 2 months ago, in March, things shifted in our bedroom. Bradley became distant, claiming exhaustion from work stress whenever I tried to initiate intimacy. We went from making love twice a week to once every 2 weeks, then not at all. When I asked if something was wrong, he assured me everything was fine. He just needed to get through a busy season at work. I believed him because I wanted to believe him. Last month, April, Bradley started talking about needing space. He used phrases like reconnect with nature and clear his head and find his center. He talked about how modern life was overwhelming, how he felt disconnected from himself, how he needed solitude to remember who he was beneath all the work pressure and family responsibilities. The way he said family responsibilities made me feel like Emma and I were burdens rather than blessings, but I pushed that feeling down too. 1 week ago, on a Sunday evening while we were cleaning up after dinner, Bradley announced his plan. He needed to go solo camping for a full week in Rocky Mountain National Park. No phone service, no distractions, just him and nature and time to detox from everything. He looked at me with what I thought was vulnerability in his eyes, And I felt guilty for all the times I had been too tired from work to really listen to him. I told him I understood, that I supported him, that everyone needs time to recharge. I spent the next few days helping him prepare. I packed his favorite trail mix and beef jerky, made sure he had warm layers because the mountains could still be cold in late April, and even bought him a new sleeping bag rated for below freezing temperatures. I kissed him goodbye on Monday morning, watching as he loaded his car with camping gear and drove away, his hand waving out the window as he turned the corner of our street. Emma had hugged her daddy tight before school, making him promise to bring back pictures of any animals he saw. He promised her he would, ruffling her blonde hair the way he always did. I remembered feeling a small ache in my chest as I watched them together, hoping this trip would help Bradley find whatever he thought he was missing, hoping he would come back ready to be present with us again. For the next 2 days, Tuesday and Wednesday, I went about my normal routine. I worked my shift at the hospital, came home to help Emma with her second grade homework, made dinner, gave her a bath, read her bedtime stories, and fell into bed exhausted. Bradley sent a few brief texts saying the camping was going well, that he was sleeping under the stars, that he saw a family of elk near his campsite. I texted back supportive messages, telling him to take all the time he needed, that Emma and I were fine. Then, Wednesday afternoon happened. I had just gotten home from the hospital, still in my scrubs, when my phone rang. It was Jenny, my college roommate, someone I had known for over a decade and trusted completely. Her voice sounded strange when I answered, tight and concerned in a way that made my stomach clench. "Ashley," she said, "I need to show you something, and I am so sorry." Before I could ask what she meant, my phone buzzed with incoming messages. Screenshots, one after another, filled my screen. I sat down heavily at the kitchen table, my legs suddenly unable to hold my weight. The first photo showed a woman in a red bikini on a pristine white sand beach, turquoise water sparkling behind her, a tropical cocktail in her hand. I recognized Courtney immediately, her long dark hair falling in waves over her shoulders, her smile bright and carefree. The location tag read Punta Cana, Dominican Republic. The second photo made my breath catch in my throat. Bradley stood next to Courtney in swim trunks, his arm wrapped possessively around her waist, both of them laughing at something off camera. His new fit body was on full display, and he looked happier than I had seen him in months. The third photo showed them at a beachfront restaurant at sunset, the sky painted in oranges and pinks behind them. They sat across from each other at a small table, holding hands over plates of food, gazing at each other with an intimacy that felt like a knife twisting in my chest. But it was the fourth photo that destroyed me completely. A close-up of Courtney, her head tilted back in laughter, and there around her neck was my necklace. The diamond pendant Bradley had given me for our 8th anniversary last June, the one he said cost him 2 months' worth of careful saving, the one I thought I had misplaced 2 months ago when I couldn't find it in my jewelry box. I had searched everywhere for it, feeling guilty about losing something so precious. Now I knew I hadn't lost it at all. He had taken it. He had given it to her. The posts were time-stamped from yesterday and today, Tuesday and Wednesday. The exact days Bradley was supposed to be alone in the wilderness, disconnected from civilization, finding himself in the solitude of nature. I sat there in my kitchen, still holding my phone, feeling like the floor had opened beneath me and I was falling through empty space. My hands started shaking so badly I had to set the phone down on the table. I stared at the screenshots, zooming in on the necklace, on their intertwined hands, on the pure joy on Bradley's face, a joy I realized I had not seen directed at me in a very long time. How long had this been going on? How many lies had he told me? How many business trips had actually been romantic getaways with her? How could I have been so blind? I sat frozen at that kitchen table for what felt like hours, but was probably only 20 minutes. The sound of the school bus pulling up outside jolted me back to reality. I shoved my phone into my pocket, wiped my eyes quickly, and forced my face into something resembling normalcy, as Emma bounded through the front door, her backpack bouncing against her small shoulders. "Mommy, guess what? I got 100% on my spelling test." She waved a paper in front of me, her face glowing with pride. I pulled her into a hug, holding her tighter than usual, breathing in the strawberry scent of her shampoo. "That is amazing, sweetheart. I am so proud of you." "Why do you look sad?" Emma asked, her blue eyes searching my face with the uncanny perceptiveness children sometimes have. "I am just tired from work, honey. Let's get you a snack and work on your homework, okay?" We sat together at that same kitchen table, Emma working through math problems while I helped her, my mind racing with images of my husband and his secretary on a beach thousands of miles away. I made her dinner, macaroni and cheese with cut-up hot dogs, her favorite. I gave her a bath, read her 3 chapters of the book we were working through together, tucked her into bed, and kissed her forehead. Through it all, I moved like a robot, going through the motions of motherhood while my internal world collapsed. After Emma's bedroom door clicked shut and I heard her breathing deepen into sleep, I went into action. I started in Bradley's home office, a small room off our living room that he used for paperwork and late-night work sessions. I opened his desk drawers methodically, looking for anything that might explain the magnitude of what I had seen. Then I remembered the camping gear. If Bradley was really in Punta Cana, his camping equipment would still be here. I walked into our garage, flipping on the overhead light. There, in the corner where Bradley always stored his outdoor gear, sat his camping backpack, completely full and packed. I unzipped it. Inside were the trail mix I had bought, the new sleeping bag still in its packaging, his hiking boots clean and unscuffed, without a speck of dirt or wear. He had never even taken them out of the garage. The realization hit me like a physical blow. He had packed the bag as a prop, a piece of staging to make his lie more believable. He had kissed our daughter goodbye and driven away with camping gear he never intended to use, headed not to the mountains but to the airport. I went back inside and sat down at the computer in his office. I logged into our joint bank account, something I rarely checked because Bradley always handled our finances. He made more money than I did, and I trusted him to manage things responsibly. That trust now felt like the most foolish thing I had ever done. I scrolled through recent transactions, and my stomach turned. 3 weeks ago, a charge for $2,400 to Delta Airlines. The description said, 2 round-trip tickets, Denver to Punta Cana, 2 tickets. He had planned this for weeks. Below that, another charge. Ocean View Resort and Spa Punta Cana, $3,200 for 5 nights. I clicked through to the resort's website. It advertised itself as a romantic couples paradise with oceanfront suites, private balconies, and couples massage packages. I kept scrolling, going back weeks and then months. February. A hotel in San Francisco, where Bradley said he had a conference, $280 for a boutique hotel in a romantic neighborhood, plus charges at expensive restaurants and wine bars. January. A hotel in Seattle, similar pattern. December. New Orleans, same thing. Every city where Bradley claimed he had business trips showed charges that had nothing to do with business and everything to do with romance. I added up the numbers in my head. Over the past 6 months, Bradley had spent more than $20,000 on hotels, flights, restaurants, and activities that had nothing to do with work and everything to do with his affair. My hands were shaking again as I opened desk drawers more frantically now. In the bottom drawer, beneath a stack of old tax returns, I found a receipt from a jewelry store. The date was last May, 1 month before our anniversary. The receipt showed a purchase of $800 for 2 identical diamond pendant necklaces. 2. He had bought matching necklaces, given one to me as an anniversary gift, and kept the other for her. The thought made me feel physically sick. I kept searching, driven by a need to know the full extent of the betrayal. In the closet near his gym bag, I found something that made my blood run cold. A second cell phone. A cheap burner phone, the kind people use when they don't want calls traced or discovered. I powered it on with trembling fingers. The phone lit up, and I saw months of text messages between Bradley and Courtney. I scrolled through them, each message another dagger to my heart. They were explicit, romantic, filled with plans and promises and intimate details I could barely stand to read, but I forced myself to keep reading because I needed to know the truth, all of it. One text from Bradley, dated 3 weeks ago, made me stop breathing. Just 2 more years until Emma is in middle school, then we can make our move. She will be old enough to handle the transition better. Another text, from 2 weeks ago. Ashley suspects nothing. She is too busy with her nursing schedule to even notice I am gone half the time. This is easier than I thought it would be. Courtney's reply. I cannot wait until we can be together openly. I am so tired of being your secret. I want to wake up next to you every morning. Bradley's response. Soon, baby. I promise. I just need to time everything perfectly. I sat on the closet floor, that burner phone in my hands, and felt tears streaming down my face for the first time since seeing those photos. He had been planning this. Not just the affair, but an exit strategy. He was waiting for Emma to be older so the divorce would be easier, so he could leave without as much guilt or judgment. I was not a person to him anymore. I was an obstacle, a temporary inconvenience standing between him and the life he wanted with someone else. I stood up, wiped my face, and went back to his computer. I needed to know if there was more, and some instinct told me there was. I opened his email, guessing his password on the second try, because he had never been very creative about security. I searched for anything related to attorneys or lawyers. What I found made everything so much worse. There was a draft email, dated 1 week ago, the Sunday before he left for his fake camping trip. The email was addressed to a divorce attorney in Denver. I read it with growing horror. Bradley had written, I am interested in filing for divorce from my wife of 9 years. We have 1 child together, age 7. I want to discuss strategies for minimizing alimony payments and child support obligations. My wife works as a nurse but has a somewhat erratic schedule that I believe demonstrates she may not be the most stable primary parent. I would like to pursue primary custody to reduce my financial obligations. The attorney had already replied, Thank you for reaching out. I would be happy to discuss your case. If you are serious about pursuing primary custody, I recommend you begin documenting any instances that could demonstrate your wife's inability to properly care for your child. Missed school events, times the child was left alone or inadequately supervised, any evidence of neglect or poor judgment. We can build a case over the next 6 to 8 months that would strengthen your position significantly. I clicked into Bradley's photos folder, something I had never invaded before because I respected his privacy. That respect now seemed absurdly misplaced. What I found there made me want to throw the computer across the room. Bradley had been taking photos of our house. Pictures of the kitchen sink filled with dirty dishes after one of my overnight shifts when I had been too exhausted to clean. Pictures of Emma eating cereal for dinner on a night when I had worked a double shift and had not had the energy to cook. Pictures of Emma's unmade bed, of laundry piled on the couch, of toys scattered across the living room floor. He was building a case against me. He was documenting moments of normal, everyday imperfection and planning to twist them into evidence that I was an unfit mother. He was going to try to take Emma from me, not because he wanted to be her primary parent, but because he wanted to pay less child support. This was not just an affair. This was a calculated, methodical plan to destroy my life, take my daughter, and walk away with minimal financial consequences so he could start fresh with Courtney. I sat in that office until 3 in the morning, finding more evidence, screenshotting everything, sending copies to my personal email address. By the time I finally went to bed, I had a complete picture of my husband's betrayal, and it was so much worse than I could have imagined. Thursday morning, I called in sick to work for the first time in 3 years. I told my supervisor I had a stomach bug and could not come in, which was not entirely a lie because I felt physically ill from what I had discovered. I needed time to think, to plan, to figure out what to do with all this information. I got Emma ready for school, braided her hair the way she liked, made her chocolate chip pancakes for breakfast, and walked her to the bus stop. I hugged her extra tight before she climbed the steps, and she looked at me with concern. "Are you okay, Mommy? You seem different." I forced a smile. "I am fine, sweetie. Just a little under the weather. Have a great day at school. I love you so much." "I love you too, Mommy." I watched the bus drive away, then walked back to my house and sat in my car in the driveway for 15 minutes, crying harder than I had ever cried in my life. I cried for my marriage, for my broken trust, for my daughter who would have to grow up in a divided home, for the version of myself who had been so naive and trusting just 2 days ago. When the tears finally stopped, I realized something important. I could not just confront Bradley directly. He would deny everything, manipulate me, gaslight me into doubting what I had seen with my own eyes. He had already been planning to divorce me and paint me as an unfit mother. If I confronted him without a strategy, he would accelerate his plan, and I would be caught off guard. I needed help. I needed advice. I needed someone who understood family dynamics and could guide me through this nightmare. I thought about who I could trust, who would not judge me or spread gossip through our suburban neighborhood. Then I thought of Patricia, Bradley's mother. She lived an hour away in Colorado Springs, and we had always had a warm relationship. She treated me more like a daughter than my own mother ever had. But would she believe me? Would she side with her son? I decided I had to try. I got in my car and drove south on Interstate 25, the mountains visible in the distance, my mind racing the entire drive. I arrived at Patricia's house just after 10 in the morning. It was a beautiful ranch-style home with a well-maintained garden, the kind of place that always felt welcoming and safe. I walked up to the front door and rang the bell, my heart pounding. Patricia opened the door in gardening clothes, dirt on her knees, a smile on her face that faded the moment she saw my expression. "Ashley? What's wrong? Is Emma okay?" "Emma is fine. Can I come in? I need to talk to you about Bradley." Her smile disappeared completely. "Of course. Come in." We sat in her living room, surrounded by family photos that now felt like lies. I pulled out my phone and showed her everything. The Facebook photos of Bradley and Courtney in Punta Cana, the bank statements showing months of deception, the text messages from the burner phone, the email to the divorce attorney, the photos Bradley had taken to build a case against me. Patricia's face went through a series of emotions as she looked at each piece of evidence. Shock, disbelief, anger, and finally a deep, profound sadness. She set my phone down on the coffee table and sat back heavily against the couch cushions. "Oh, Ashley. Oh, honey. I am so sorry." "You believe me?" I asked, surprised by the relief I felt. "Of course I believe you. How could I not?" She was quiet for a moment, then said something I did not expect. "This is not the first time." I looked at her in confusion. "What do you mean?" Patricia took a deep breath. "Bradley's father, my husband, had an affair 20 years ago. Bradley was 12 years old. It nearly destroyed our marriage. I found out because the other woman called our house, told me everything, thinking I already knew. I was devastated, humiliated, broken. I had no idea. We kept it quiet. I stayed for the children, told myself it was the right thing to do. But Ashley, I have regretted that decision every single day since. I should have left. I should have demanded better for myself and shown my children what self-respect looks like. Instead, I taught them that betrayal is acceptable if you keep it quiet and maintain appearances. I felt tears welling up again. I do not know what to do. Patricia reached over and took my hand. "Do not make my mistake. Do not let him get away with this. You deserve so much better, and so does Emma. She needs to see her mother stand up for herself." We sat in silence for a moment, then Patricia said something that surprised me even more. "I want to help you." I have money of my own, an inheritance from my parents that I have kept separate from my husband for decades. I want to hire you the best divorce attorney in Colorado. I started to protest. I cannot ask you to do that. You are not asking. I am offering. Bradley is my son and I love him, but what he is doing is wrong. He needs to face consequences, and you need protection. Patricia pulled out her phone and made a call right then and there. Marcus, it is Patricia Wellington. I need a favor. I have a daughter, in law, who needs the best family law attorney in Denver, and I am paying for everything. Can you meet with her today? She listened for a moment, then nodded. This afternoon works. Thank you, Marcus. After she hung up, Patricia looked at me with an intensity I had never seen before. There is something else you need to know. Something Bradley probably never told you. What? He has a trust fund from his grandparents, my parents. It is worth approximately $400,000. The trust releases when he turns 35, which is in 6 months. I think that is why he is planning to divorce you now. He wants that money all to himself. My mind reeled. $400,000. Money I had no idea existed. But Patricia was not done. She dropped the biggest bomb of all. And Ashley, the house you and Bradley live in? I own it. I bought it as a wedding gift years ago but kept it in my name for tax purposes. Bradley has been telling you that you own it together. But legally, it is mine. I stared at her. I had no idea. Well, now you do. And I am transferring the deed to your name today. Bradley will come home from his little vacation to find out he has nowhere to live. For the first time in 2 days, I felt something besides despair. I felt a spark of hope, of power, of possibility. Thursday afternoon, I sat in a sleek conference room on the 20th floor of a downtown Denver office building, looking across a polished table at Marcus Wellington. He was in his 50s, with silver hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. Patricia had explained on the drive into the city that Marcus was one of the top family law attorneys in Colorado, known for his aggressive representation and his track record of favorable outcomes for his clients. I showed Marcus everything I had found. The photos, the bank statements, the text messages, the email to the divorce attorney, the documentation Bradley had been building against me. Marcus looked through each piece of evidence carefully, occasionally making notes on a legal pad. When he finally looked up at me, he was smiling. Mrs. Harrison, I have been practicing family law for 28 years, and I have rarely seen a case this well documented from the start. This is, quite frankly, a divorce attorney's dream. What does that mean for me? I asked. It means you are in a much stronger position than you realize. Colorado is an equitable distribution state, not a community property state, which means assets are divided fairly but not necessarily equally. With documented evidence of your husband's infidelity, his misuse of marital funds, and his plan to falsely accuse you of being an unfit mother, I can almost guarantee a judge will look very favorably on your case. Relief flooded through me. So I will not lose custody of Emma? Not a chance. Based on what you have shown me, you will get primary custody, possibly even sole custody, if we can demonstrate that Bradley's behavior is detrimental to your daughter's well-being. He will have visitation rights, but Emma will live with you. What about money? I make decent money as a nurse, but I cannot afford our mortgage on my own. Marcus smiled again. Patricia told me about the house situation. That is a significant advantage. But there is more. With evidence of his affair and his deliberate misuse of marital assets, we can pursue a favorable division of all retirement accounts, savings, and other assets. Plus, child support based on his income level. What should I do now? I asked. Do not confront him yet. Let him return from his trip, thinking everything is fine. We will file for divorce the morning he gets back, catching him completely off guard. In the meantime, I want to gather even more evidence. Marcus arranged for a private investigator to document Bradley and Courtney when they returned to Denver. He also started digging into Bradley's employment records and discovered something damaging. Courtney had received 2 significant raises and 3 bonuses in the 6 months since Bradley hired her, despite being the most junior member of the staff. It looked exactly like what it was: a boss using company resources to benefit his mistress. Marcus made a strategic call to the Human Resources Department at Bradley's company, anonymously planting seeds about investigating potential misuse of company funds and inappropriate workplace relationships. He knew this would eventually lead to an internal investigation that would further damage Bradley's position. Over the next 2 days, Friday and Saturday, I maintained complete normalcy. I texted Bradley as if nothing was wrong. "Hope you are enjoying your camping trip. Emma misses you. We are looking forward to hearing about your adventures when you get home." Bradley replied with more lies. "Saw a family of elk this morning. Sleeping under the stars has been incredible. I feel so much clearer. Love you." Reading "love you" made me feel physically ill, but I responded, "Love you too. Stay safe." Meanwhile, Patricia went to her attorney and officially transferred the house deed into my name. Marcus filed paperwork for a restraining order that would be served the moment we filed for divorce. I opened a new bank account at a different bank and transferred exactly half of our joint savings into it, $12,000. Marcus assured me this was legal in Colorado before a divorce was filed. I documented every asset we owned: Bradley's car, a $60,000 luxury sedan he had bought last year; my car, a practical SUV, worth $25,000; our furniture, his watch collection worth several $1,000s, our retirement accounts. Marcus's investigator dug deeper and discovered a secret investment account in Bradley's name only, containing $32,000. When Marcus questioned me about it, I had no idea it existed. It appeared Bradley had been skimming money and hiding it for months, possibly years. Saturday night, I tucked Emma into bed and read her favorite story, the one about a princess who saves herself. Emma had her father's blue eyes, and looking into them, I felt a fierce determination to protect her from the chaos that was coming. "Mommy, when is Daddy coming home?" Emma asked sleepily. "Soon, sweetheart. Very soon. Everything is going to change. But I promise you will be okay. I will always keep you safe." "I know, Mommy. You always do." After Emma fell asleep, I sat on my bed and stared at my phone, looking at those Facebook photos one more time. I felt anger, yes, but also something else: strength, clarity, a sense that I was finally taking control of my own life. Sunday morning, everything changed again. I received a Facebook message from an account I did not recognize. The profile picture was a generic landscape, no personal information. The message said, "Ashley, this is Courtney. I know this is strange, but I need to talk to you. Bradley does not know I am reaching out. Can you meet me at Riverside Park at noon? Please, there is something you need to know." I stared at the message, my heart racing. Was this a trap? Was Bradley putting her up to this to manipulate me somehow? I immediately called Marcus. He answered on the second ring. "Courtney just messaged me asking to meet," I said. "Should I go?" Marcus was quiet for a moment. "My instinct says yes, but record everything on your phone. Do not go somewhere private. Stay in public. This could be incredibly valuable." At noon, I walked into Riverside Park, a popular spot along the Platte River where families picnicked and joggers ran along paved trails. I saw Courtney sitting on a bench near the playground, looking small and nervous. She was not wearing her vacation clothes, just jeans and a sweatshirt, her hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. I sat down on the opposite end of the bench, my phone in my pocket recording everything, and waited for her to speak. Courtney looked at me with red, swollen eyes. "Thank you for coming. I was not sure you would." "I almost did not," I said honestly. "What do you want?" "I need to tell you the truth. About everything. Bradley does not know I am here. He would kill me if he found out." So talk. Courtney took a shaky breath. You are not the first. I am not the only one. There have been others before me. My stomach dropped. What? At least 3 other secretaries over the past 5 years. Bradley has a pattern. He hires young women, fresh out of college, makes them feel special, seduces them, uses them, and then gets rid of them when they start wanting more or when he gets bored. I thought I was different. I thought what we had was real. What made you realize you were not? Courtney pulled out her phone and showed me text messages. 2 days ago, while we were in Punta Cana, I found texts on Bradley's phone from another woman. She is a new intern at his company, 22 years old, started 3 weeks ago. He has been texting her the same kinds of things he used to text me when we first started. I realized he is already lining up his next target. I felt a strange sort of vindication. It was not about me. It was never about me. Bradley was simply a man who could not be satisfied with what he had, who always needed something new, something shiny, something that made him feel powerful. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Because I am angry. Because I wasted 6 months of my life on a man who never cared about me. Because he has been coaching me to lie for him. What do you mean? He told me that when you eventually find out, when you file for divorce, he will need me to testify. He wants me to say that your marriage was already falling apart, that you were neglectful of Emma, that you were never home. He gave me specific stories to memorize. He is building a case to destroy you. I know, I said quietly. I found his emails. Courtney looked surprised. You know about the attorney? I know about everything. She was quiet for a moment, then reached into her purse and pulled out a small thumb drive. I copied everything from his computer and his burner phone. Emails, texts, photos, financial records. Everything. It is all here. She handed me the thumb drive. I took it, hardly believing what was happening. Why are you doing this? I asked again. Courtney looked at me with tears streaming down her face. Because I am 24 years old and I made a stupid, horrible mistake. I believed a married man when he told me his marriage was over, that he was only staying for his daughter, that he loved me. I let myself believe it because I wanted to feel special. But you are his wife. You are Emma's mother. You did not deserve any of this. I am sorry. I am so sorry. I looked at this young woman, and I felt something unexpected. Not hatred, but pity. She was young, foolish, complicit in the destruction of my marriage, but she was also a victim of Bradley's manipulation. I cannot forgive you, I said honestly. Not yet, maybe not ever. But I appreciate you doing the right thing now. Courtney nodded. I quit my job yesterday. I am moving back to Nebraska, back home with my parents. I am going to start over somewhere else, somewhere I can forget all of this. I stood up to leave, then turned back. Courtney, do one more thing for me. When this goes to court, tell the truth. All of it. Help me protect my daughter from her father's lies. I will. I promise. I walked back to my car with the thumb drive in my pocket, feeling like I had just collected the final piece of ammunition I needed to win this war. Monday morning arrived with bright sunshine and a sense of inevitability. Bradley's flight was scheduled to land at 8 in the morning. Everything was in place. Marcus had the divorce papers ready to file electronically at 9 sharp. The private investigator was stationed at the airport parking garage. Patricia had driven up from Colorado Springs and was waiting at my house for moral support. I dropped Emma at school, kissed her goodbye, and told her I loved her more than anything in the world. She skipped toward the building without a care, her backpack bouncing, completely unaware that her entire world was about to shift. I drove home and waited. At 8:15, my phone buzzed with a text from Marcus's investigator. Subject and female companion exiting terminal together. Taking photos now. 5 minutes later, more photos arrived. Bradley and Courtney walking through the airport, his arm around her shoulders. Bradley and Courtney in the parking garage, kissing next to his car. Bradley loading matching suitcases into his trunk. Every photo was time-stamped and geotagged, undeniable proof. At 9 o'clock exactly, Marcus filed the divorce papers electronically with the Denver County Court. I imagined the documents entering the system, official and irreversible. At 9:30, a process server walked into Bradley's office building and asked for him by name. The server handed Bradley a manila envelope containing the divorce petition, a temporary restraining order preventing him from entering the house, and a notice of an emergency custody hearing scheduled for Wednesday morning. My phone rang 30 seconds later. Bradley's name flashed on the screen. I let it ring 3 times before answering, my hand surprisingly steady. "What the hell is this, Ashley? Have you lost your mind?" His voice was loud, aggressive, the voice of a man who thought he was still in control. "I know about Punta Cana. I know about Courtney. I know about all of it." The line went silent for several seconds. Then his tone changed, shifted into something manipulative and pleading. "Baby, I can explain. It is not what you think. Let me come home and we can talk about this. I have photos, Bradley. Bank statements, text messages from your burner phone, emails to your divorce attorney, documentation of everything you have spent on your affair. Do not bother lying." Another pause. I could almost hear him recalculating, trying to figure out how much I knew and what his next move should be. "Ashley, listen to me. You are overreacting. Yes, I made a mistake. Yes, I spent time with Courtney, but it did not mean anything. It was just a moment of weakness. We can work through this. Think about Emma. Think about our family. You should have thought about Emma before you spent $20,000 on hotel rooms with your secretary. You should have thought about our family before you planned to falsely accuse me of being an unfit mother to reduce your child support payments." His tone shifted again, this time to anger. "You went through my personal files? You invaded my privacy?" I almost laughed at the absurdity. "You have been lying to me for months, spending our money on another woman, planning to destroy my reputation in court, and you are concerned about privacy? You will never survive without me, Ashley. You cannot afford that house on a nurse's salary. You will get nothing in the divorce. I will make sure of it." This was the moment I had been waiting for. "Actually, Bradley, your mother owns the house, and she transferred the deed to my name on Thursday. You are the one with nowhere to live." Complete silence on the other end of the line. "My mother would never." His voice trailed off. "She is standing right here. Would you like to speak to her?" I handed the phone to Patricia. She took it and said in a cold, controlled voice, "Bradley, you are a disappointment and a liar. You are just like your father, but worse, because you are trying to take a child away from her mother out of pure selfishness. Do not bother calling me." She hung up and handed the phone back to me. An hour later, Bradley showed up at the house. I watched through the front window as he pulled into the driveway, got out of his car, and tried to use his key in the front door. The locks had been changed that morning. He tried several times, confused, then began pounding on the door. I opened it but stood in the doorway, blocking his entrance. Behind me, Patricia and Marcus stood in the living room, watching. "Ashley, let me in. This is my house." "No, it is not. Read the restraining order you were served. You are not allowed to enter this property." "This is insane. We need to talk privately." Marcus stepped forward. "Mr. Harrison, I am Marcus Wellington, your wife's attorney. You can speak in front of me, or you can speak to a judge. Your choice." Bradley's eyes darted between us, landing on his mother. "Mom, you cannot be serious about this." "I am completely serious. What you have done is unforgivable." Bradley tried a different approach, pulling out his phone. "Fine. If you want to play hardball, I have evidence too. I have documentation of Ashley's neglect of Emma. I will fight for custody, and I will win." I slid a folder across the small table near the front door. "You mean the photos you took of normal household mess? The photos you staged to make me look bad? We have those too, along with the metadata showing when they were taken, and the email where you discussed your strategy with an attorney. Bradley opened the folder, his face going pale as he flipped through pages of his own emails and text messages, printed and organized chronologically. His phone rang. He looked at the screen, and I saw a flash of fear cross his face. He answered, putting it on speaker, probably thinking it was his attorney calling back. "Bradley Harrison?" A male voice said. "Yes? This is David Keller from Human Resources at Meridian Pharmaceutical. We need you to come to the office immediately. We have received a formal complaint regarding inappropriate relationships with subordinates and irregularities in expense reports and payroll. You are suspended pending investigation. Security will escort you to collect your personal items. Do not return to the office until you hear from us." Bradley's face went from pale to ashen. He looked at me with something like hatred. "You did this. You called my company." Marcus smiled slightly. "Your company has an obligation to investigate any credible complaints about workplace harassment and fraud. The evidence speaks for itself." Bradley's hands clenched into fists. For a moment, I thought he might try to force his way into the house, but Marcus stepped closer to the door, his presence a quiet warning. "Fine," Bradley said, his voice shaking with rage. "You want to destroy me? I will destroy you too. I will drag you through every courtroom in Colorado. I will make sure Emma knows exactly what kind of vindictive person her mother is. I will fight you for custody, and I will make your life a living hell." Marcus calmly pulled another folder from his briefcase. "If you contest anything in the divorce settlement, we will present all of this evidence to the judge. Your documented affair, your misuse of marital funds, your plan to falsely accuse your wife, your misuse of company resources. We will also file a formal complaint with your employer documenting fraud and embezzlement. You will be lucky to avoid criminal charges, Mr. Harrison." He opened the folder to show Bradley printed text messages, including the ones where Bradley explicitly stated he did not really want custody, but was pursuing it to reduce child support. "Or," Marcus continued, "you can sign a settlement agreement today. Mrs. Harrison gets full custody with reasonable visitation for you. You pay child support based on your current salary. You split retirement accounts equitably. You keep your car and personal belongings. And most importantly, you walk away quietly without dragging your daughter through a contentious court battle." Bradley looked at the documents, then at me, then at his mother. I saw the exact moment he realized he had lost. His shoulders sagged, the fight draining out of him. "Where do I sign?" he said quietly. Marcus handed him a pen and a preliminary agreement. Bradley signed it without reading it thoroughly, his hand shaking with either rage or humiliation or both. "You need to leave now," I said. "Pack a bag if you need clothes, but you have 10 minutes, and I am watching you." Bradley walked past me into the house, went upstairs to our bedroom, and threw clothes into a duffel bag. I stood in the doorway the entire time, making sure he did not take anything that was not his. When he came back downstairs, he stopped in front of me. "I hope you are happy," he said bitterly. "I am not happy, Bradley. I am devastated. But I will survive, and I will make sure Emma has the stable, honest life she deserves." He walked out the front door and drove away. I watched his car disappear down the street, carrying with it 9 years of my life, and the future I thought I would have. Patricia put her arm around my shoulders. "You were so strong. I am proud of you." I nodded, unable to speak past the lump in my throat. Emma would be home from school in 3 hours, and I needed to figure out how to explain that her father would not be living with us anymore. Bradley signed the formal settlement agreement 3 days later in Marcus's office. I was not required to be present, which was a relief because I did not want to see his face again so soon. Marcus called me afterward with the details. Full custody of Emma to me, with Bradley having visitation every other weekend and 1 evening per week. Child support set at $1,200 per month based on his current salary, though Marcus suspected that would decrease once Bradley lost his job permanently. I would keep the house, my car, and half of all retirement accounts. Bradley would keep his car and his personal belongings. He had to return the diamond pendant necklace or pay its replacement value of $400. The settlement was fair, clean, and final. I picked Emma up from school that afternoon and took her to get ice cream. We sat in a bright booth at her favorite shop, and I explained in the gentlest terms I could manage. "Sweetheart, Daddy and I are going to live in separate houses now. It is not because of anything you did. Sometimes grown-ups realize they are happier living apart. You will stay with me in our house, and you will visit Daddy sometimes. We both love you so much, and that will never change." Emma looked at me with her father's blue eyes, and I saw understanding there that was too mature for a 7-year-old. "Is it because Daddy went on vacation with the lady from his work?" My heart broke. "How did you know about that?" "I heard you talking to Grandma Patricia." I was not trying to listen, but I heard. I pulled her close, breathing in her strawberry shampoo, fighting back tears. "Yes, baby. Daddy made some choices that hurt our family. But this is not your fault, and you do not have to worry about grown-up problems. Mommy is going to make sure everything is okay." She hugged me tight. "Are you sad, Mommy?" "I am sad about some things, but I am happy about other things. I am happy I have you. That is the most important thing." Over the next 2 weeks, life settled into a new rhythm. Emma adjusted better than I expected, maybe because Bradley had been absent so much already that his physical absence was not as jarring as it might have been. Patricia came over several evenings each week, helping with dinner and homework, solidifying her role as the grandmother Emma needed. Bradley moved in with a friend, then into a small apartment across town. The investigation at his company concluded with his termination. They discovered he had been falsifying expense reports for years, claiming personal expenses as business costs, pocketing the reimbursements. They calculated he had stolen approximately $40,000 over 4 years. The company demanded restitution and threatened legal action if he did not pay. Courtney reached out one final time, a brief email saying she had moved back to Nebraska, enrolled in community college courses, and started therapy. She apologized again and said she hoped Emma and I would be okay. I did not respond, but I also did not delete the email. Someday, maybe years from now, I might find it in myself to forgive her. But not yet. I started picking up extra shifts at the hospital, saving aggressively, building a financial cushion for Emma's future. Patricia offered to help pay for Emma's eventual college education, a generous gift I accepted gratefully. I refinanced the mortgage in my name only, lowering the monthly payment enough that I could manage it comfortably on my salary. I also started seeing a therapist, Dr. Sarah Morgan, a kind woman in her 50s who specialized in trauma and betrayal. She helped me process the anger, the grief, the loss of the future I had imagined. She helped me understand that Bradley's choices were never a reflection of my worth, that I had done nothing wrong, that I deserved better. One evening, about 3 weeks after everything exploded, I was at the grocery store picking up ingredients for Emma's favorite spaghetti dinner. I turned a corner in the pasta aisle and almost ran directly into Bradley. He looked terrible. His hair was unwashed, his clothes wrinkled, dark circles under his eyes. He had lost the fit appearance he had worked so hard to achieve, looking thin and drawn instead of healthy. "Ashley," he said, his voice cracking slightly. I gripped my shopping cart and tried to move past him, but he stepped into my path. "Please, can we just talk for a minute? We have nothing to talk about except Emma, and you can communicate with me about her through text or email. I know I messed up. I know I ruined everything. I just want you to know I am sorry. I am so sorry." I looked at him and felt nothing. Not anger, not sadness, not even pity. Just emptiness where 9 years of love used to be. "You had an affair, Bradley. You lied to me for months. You spent our money on another woman. You planned to falsely accuse me of being an unfit mother. You tried to manipulate the legal system to avoid supporting your own daughter. Sorry does not fix any of that. I know. I was stupid. I was selfish. I do not know what I was thinking. You were thinking about yourself. You have always thought about yourself. I just did not see it until now. His eyes filled with tears. I miss you. I miss Emma. I miss my life. You made your choices. Now you live with them. I have to go. I pushed past him, and this time he did not stop me. As I walked toward the checkout line, I realized something important. I was not angry at him anymore. Anger required energy, required caring about what he thought or felt or wanted. I did not care. He had become irrelevant to my happiness. 3 months after the initial confrontation, I went back to the courthouse to finalize the divorce. It was a brief hearing, just a formality since we had a signed settlement agreement. The judge asked if we had resolved all property and custody issues. We both said yes. She signed the final decree, and it was over. I walked out of that courthouse, a legally single woman, the late July sun bright and warm on my face. I sat in my car for a few minutes, expecting to feel something dramatic. Instead, I felt peaceful, lighter, free. That evening, I picked Emma up from Patricia's house. My former mother-in-law, who remained very much a part of our lives, hugged me tight. "How do you feel?" she asked. "Like I can finally breathe again." "Good. You deserve to breathe. You deserve everything good." Emma and I went home to our house, the one that was officially, legally mine. We made dinner together, giggling as we tried to flip pancakes and only half succeeded. After Emma went to bed, I sat on my back porch with a cup of tea, looking up at the stars. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. My heart jumped, thinking it might be Bradley from yet another new phone. But when I opened it, I saw it was from Marcus. "Just wanted to let you know. Bradley's trust fund was frozen today. The woman from 2 years ago filed a lawsuit against him for workplace harassment and emotional distress. She found out about the pattern through his termination and contacted several other women. They are building a class action case. His trust fund will likely be tied up in litigation for years. Thought you would want to know." I read the message twice, then 3 times. Everything Bradley had destroyed his marriage for, everything he had lied and manipulated and schemed to protect, was gone. The money he would have received in 6 months when he turned 30, 5 would never reach him. Karma was real, and she was thorough. I texted back, "Thank you for everything, Marcus. I could not have done this without you." His reply came quickly. "You are stronger than you know. You did this yourself. I just provided the legal framework." I set my phone down and looked back up at the stars. Somewhere out there, Bradley was living with the consequences of his actions. But I was here, in my home, with my daughter sleeping safely upstairs, with a future full of possibilities stretching out before me. For the first time in months, I smiled a real, genuine smile. 6 months later, on a crisp February morning, I stood in my kitchen, making chocolate chip pancakes for Emma. She sat at the table working on a Valentine's Day card for her teacher, her tongue poking out slightly in concentration the way it always did when she was focused. Outside the window, snow covered our backyard in a pristine white blanket. Inside, our house was warm, filled with the smell of breakfast and the sound of music playing softly from my phone. This kitchen, where I had discovered Bradley's betrayal 9 months ago, now felt like a sanctuary rather than a crime scene. Emma had adjusted remarkably well to our new life. She saw her father every other weekend, and while those handoffs were occasionally awkward, they were civil. Bradley had found a new job at a smaller pharmaceutical company, a significant step down from his previous position, but enough to pay his bills and child support. He lived in a 1-bedroom apartment and drove a used car. His life had been reduced to the essentials, and while I did not take pleasure in his struggles, I also did not feel guilty about them. I had been promoted to charge nurse at County General 3 months ago, a role that came with more responsibility, but also a significant raise. I was making more money than I ever had, building savings, planning for Emma's future. The house was fully mine, refinanced in my name only, with a payment I could easily afford. But the changes went beyond financial stability. I had started painting again, something I loved in college, but abandoned after marriage and motherhood took over. My bedroom now had an easel in the corner, canvases leaning against the walls, splashes of color that represented my rediscovered creativity. I had joined a local art collective, taking classes on Saturday mornings while Emma had soccer practice. I was dating casually, nothing serious, but I had gone on a few coffee dates and one dinner with a kind physical therapist named Daniel who worked at the hospital. It felt strange and exciting and terrifying all at once, but I was learning to trust again, slowly. Patricia had become more present in our lives than ever before. She came for dinner at least twice a week, took Emma to movies and museums, and became the maternal figure I had always needed. She had essentially disowned Bradley after learning the full extent of his deception, telling him she would maintain a relationship with Emma but not with him until he proved through sustained action that he had changed. That afternoon, I took Emma to Riverside Park, the same park where I had met with Courtney 9 months ago. We bundled up in winter coats and scarves, and Emma ran ahead to the swings, her laughter echoing across the frozen playground. I pushed her on the swings, watching her hair fly behind her, her cheeks pink from cold and joy. She looked back at me and shouted, "Higher, Mommy! Higher!" I pushed harder, and she soared into the blue February sky, fearless and free. When she finally had enough of swinging, we walked along the path by the partially frozen river. Emma held my hand, chattering about her upcoming birthday party, about the new friends she made at school, about whether we could get a puppy. "Mommy, are you happy now?" she asked suddenly, her voice serious. I looked down at her, this beautiful child who looked so much like her father but had my stubbornness and strength. "Yes, sweetheart, I really am. Are you?" She nodded enthusiastically. "I am happy. I like our life now. It feels calmer." Her words struck me deeply. Even a 7-year-old could sense that our home was more peaceful without the tension that had permeated it during those final months of my marriage, tension I had not even fully recognized until it was gone. That evening, after Emma was asleep, I sat at my kitchen table with my journal, something Dr. Morgan had encouraged me to keep. I wrote about the journey from that devastating Wednesday when Jenny sent me those photos to now, 9 months later, sitting in a house I owned, with a daughter who was thriving, with a sense of self I had not possessed in years. I thought about Bradley and where he was now. His life had crumbled in spectacular fashion. He lost his high-paying job, his family, his home, his reputation, and the trust fund he had coveted. The class action lawsuit from his former secretaries was ongoing, draining what money he had left on legal fees. He was 45 minutes late to his last visitation pickup, and I had told him clearly that if it happened again, I would document it for potential modification of the custody agreement. But I did not think about him with anger anymore. Anger had been replaced by indifference, which was somehow more final than hatred. He had become a person I used to know, someone who shared custody of my daughter but had no other claim on my life or emotions. I thought about Courtney, back in Nebraska, hopefully learning from her mistakes and building a better life. I thought about the other women Bradley had used and discarded, now united in seeking justice. I thought about Patricia, who had chosen her daughter, law and granddaughter over her son, demonstrating that family is defined by loyalty and love, not just blood. Most of all, I thought about myself. About the woman who had stood in this kitchen 9 months ago, her hands shaking as she looked at photos of her husband with another woman. About how broken and powerless I had felt in that moment. I thought about everything I had learned since then. That betrayal, while devastating, can be a catalyst for growth. That asking for help is not weakness, but wisdom. That strength is not about never falling apart, but about putting yourself back together, piece by careful piece. I learned that revenge is not about hurting someone back. Real revenge is building a life so full, so beautiful, so authentic that the person who hurt you becomes irrelevant to your happiness. It is choosing joy over bitterness, growth over stagnation, truth over comfortable lies. I learned that I was never incomplete without Bradley. I had simply been convinced I was. He had benefited from my belief that I needed him, that I could not survive alone, that his presence in my life was essential. Breaking free from that belief was like waking up from a dream I had not realized I was having. I learned that Emma was more resilient than I gave her credit for, that children often adapt better than adults to change, that honesty and stability matter more than maintaining an illusion of a perfect family. Most importantly, I learned my own worth. I learned that I deserved honesty, respect, fidelity, and partnership. I learned that compromising on those fundamental needs was not flexibility or maturity, but self-betrayal. I started volunteering at a women's center downtown twice a month, helping other women navigate divorce and betrayal. I shared my story, offered practical advice about documenting evidence and finding good attorneys, and provided emotional support to women who were where I had been 9 months ago. My pain had purpose now. My survival could help others survive. I closed my journal and looked around my kitchen. The same kitchen where my marriage had ended was now the heart of a home filled with peace, laughter, and possibility. I had painted the walls a cheerful yellow last month, hung new curtains Emma helped me pick out, and filled the space with plants and light. My phone buzzed with a text from Patricia. Just wanted to tell you how proud I am of you and Emma. You two are thriving, and it makes my heart so full. Love you both. I smiled and texted back. We are more than okay. We are thriving. Thank you for everything you did to help us get here. You gave me the tools, but you also gave me the courage. Love you too. Another text came in, this one from Daniel, the physical therapist. Enjoyed our dinner last week. Would you like to get coffee this Saturday while Emma is at soccer? I hesitated, then typed, I would like that. Text me a time and place. I was not ready for anything serious. Might not be for a long time, but I was ready to keep opening my heart to new possibilities. I was ready to believe that good men existed, that trust could be rebuilt, that love could be real and honest and kind. I walked through my house, turning off lights, checking that doors were locked. I paused outside Emma's room and peeked in. She was sprawled across her bed, one arm flung over her stuffed elephant, her face peaceful in sleep. I stood there for a moment, overwhelmed with gratitude that I had fought for this life, for this home, for this little girl who deserved stability and truth. Before bed, I walked out onto my back porch despite the cold. I looked up at the February stars, bright and clear in the winter sky. I thought about the woman I had been, and the woman I was becoming. I thought about all the women who might be reading this story or hearing it, women who might be where I was 9 months ago, suspecting but afraid to look, knowing but afraid to act. I wanted them to know what I learned. You are stronger than you think. You deserve better than lies and betrayal. Asking for help is not weakness. Documenting everything is essential. Good attorneys exist. Good people exist who will stand with you. Your children will be okay. Probably better than they are now living in a home filled with tension and deception. Most importantly, I wanted them to know that life after betrayal is not just about survival. It is about rediscovery, rebirth, and reclamation. It is about building something authentic from the rubble of something false. I whispered to the stars, to the universe, to the version of myself from 9 months ago who thought her world was ending. I am free, I am whole, I am enough, and I am just beginning. I went inside, locked the door of my house, my sanctuary, my home, and climbed into bed. I fell asleep peacefully, deeply, dreamlessly, wrapped in the security of knowing I had saved myself and my daughter, that we were building a beautiful life together, that the worst was behind us, and the best was still to come. The next morning, I woke up to Emma jumping on my bed, giggling and announcing it was the weekend. I pulled her close, tickling her until she squealed with laughter, and I realized this was what happiness felt like. Not the absence of problems, but the presence of peace. Not a perfect life, but an honest one. Not a fairy tale ending, but a real one, earned through courage and choice and the refusal to accept less than I deserved. And that, I realized, was more than enough. Now, I want to ask you something. Have you ever had to make a difficult choice to protect yourself or your children, even when it meant your whole life would change? How did you find the strength to take that first step? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. If this story resonated with you, please give it a like and subscribe to hear more stories of resilience, courage, and the power of choosing yourself. Share this with someone who might need to hear it, someone who might be struggling with their own difficult decision. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it reminds you that you are stronger than you know, that you deserve honesty and respect, and that sometimes the ending of one chapter is really the beginning of something so much better. Take care of yourself, trust your instincts, and remember that you are always, always enough.